Hello, hello, and welcome to the Vinyl Vault. My name is Tony,
And I'm Parker.
and today we're talking about Nirvana. Nirvana's Nevermind. Of course, one of the most popular, influential, and really game-changing albums of the '90s. And yeah, we're gonna take a little dive into it. Parker, are you
Yes.
familiar with a band called Nirvana?
So I know of their existence. I haven't listened to any of their albums until this week. I do know that this album cover and then any Sublime logo are like the top tapestries you see at head shops.
Yeah.
There seems to be a real fascination with this album. My generation, your generation, maybe more your generation
More
than mine.
years, yeah.
All I really knew, so I knew Nirvana songs.
Sure.
I knew Smells Like Teen Spirit, Come As You Are. I didn't know they were on this album, which kind of just shows how not smart about Nirvana I am. All I knew about this album was that there was a baby on the cover and it was controversial at the time and potentially a legal issue, which I don't think is a legal issue anymore.
Honestly, I don't remember where it lies, but yeah, typically it hasn't gone very far.
Yeah, and remind me, I don't know if this was part of your research, but the baby in this photo is a real baby,
Yes, his name is Spencer Eldon.
and he's not happy with the fact that. And I'm noticing our album cover on here is different than the album cover on Apple Music.
It sure is. I wasn't sure what we were allowed and not allowed to have, and there are copies out there that are censored, like this one, as that was the issue with Eldon. As he felt like he was, very much exposed and bullied because he was the Nirvana baby.
He got paid though, or his family got paid.
His family got paid, and he recreated it whenever he was an adult.
Yeah, that's probably not the best defense.
Correct. So he struggled very much trying to get some extra money about, in terms of this album. The irony in it is that Kurt Cobain wanted this in particular photo that here is a baby born into capitalism chasing after money, and of course,
Ironically, he would grow up to continue chasing after money.
Yeah.
So obviously this came out in 91, it looks like.
Yep, September
Very early
24th,
90s.
1991.
So this came out 5 years before I was born. So I have no idea what the culture was like. I imagine an album cover like this was controversial at best.
No, honestly, the '90s, the term of the woke nature and people being a little bit more sensitive, and at the same time, a lot of people also being very much discriminated against and stuff like that. That culture wasn't really huge, and for the most part, something like this, baby nudity, for the most part, was not an issue. And honestly, this album, that was not the controversy. It was more so the music that kind of spoke to everyone around there. The '90s, especially at this point, all of your big bands, including the bands that we've have covered last year in the past, they all shifted to the '80s pop synth style and everything. The biggest bands at the time were, bands, big hair metal, glam. Everyone was, dressed in very, very flamboyant and
Your Def Leppards, your Guns N' Roses, your Bon Jovis.
and it got extremely saturated by the time you hit the '90s, where now, that was just a style. It wasn't a style of music anymore. Just people just dressed up that way. And I mean, that includes, Queen was diving into the music. And I mean, their sales were dropping, and nobody knew what the '90s was going to be.
The public wanted something different.
Correct. And this was also right after a recession that had happened. So the timing of people who felt like commercialism, capitalism, and people were poor. People weren't happy, and the lifestyle of the '80s didn't make sense because that wasn't relatable. And then came Nirvana, a bunch of teenagers out of Seattle, dirt poor, and wrote a song about wrote an unintentional, ironic, and you'll find that a lot in as a theme in Nirvana's music and just Nirvana's story. That they intentionally were just mad about the world around them, wrote about it, and people latched on and like, yes, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on in my life, and I mean, it was just a perfect storm of something new, a new city to pay attention to, a new sound that I mean, a lot of people credit Nirvana Nevermind as the nail in the coffin for like hair metal and glam and all of that.
Well, and they went on to inspire like your Stone Temple Pilots, your Pearl Jams. Seattle kind of became like the mecca of grunge.
Exactly. And the big appeal about it was that their music was extremely simple, 4 chords, and but like Cobain in particularly was a really good at melody. He was a big Beatles guy, and knew that you can have the best of pop music, of having a great hook and things like that, with the simplicity of just punk rock 4 chords, and being able to write music that way. So as for me, learning how to play the guitar, extremely easy to learn Nirvana songs, extremely accessible. So if you pick it up, you're learning your first few chords, you're not too far off from being able to play a Nirvana song, and you can sing along and so on and so forth. So it was extremely easy and accessible.
So
And
you grew up with this kind of music. You
Yes.
obviously like the harder rock. How influential was Cobain on you as a musician?
I would say pretty high in terms of really enjoying figuring out a way of accessing hard music. I didn't start off that way. I started off with my sister's music, which was like R&B and like Boys to Men, like that. That's where that comes from. So obviously that's a big jump to go from that kind of a sound to like something hard rock, which I immediately went to Metallica. A huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And Metallica, I mean, at that time was starting to be more melodic and less of the like aggression and stuff like that. So that's what I latched on to, and then eventually just became more and more of that. Nirvana was just a great in between, just really solid songs that are super catchy and rocked as well. So it was extremely easy, and Kurt Cobain was just like the face of it all. Even if I didn't want it to be, like he was put out. MTV, like he was the guy, and I mean, say what you will, whether his legacy would have lasted if he lived, but I mean, the fact is he didn't live, and it kind of made him almost, like martyr status,
I wanna ask you this question.
Proceed.
How do I phrase this? Obviously, Cobain's no longer with us, but Dave Grohl is. And for people who are not familiar with Nirvana, I don't know much about him, but I know Dave Grohl was the drummer.
Yes.
Who do you think is more famous? Dave Grohl, knowing that he's, continued his music career, started Foo Fighters, did all this stuff, or Kurt Cobain, who almost has this like Mount Rushmore status, despite, not even, I mean, he had a lot going on in his life. He didn't make it to 30.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl, I think, is in his like late 50s, probably early 60s by now. So he's had, much more time to put more on tape and elevate his status.
Yeah.
But Kurt Cobain is such a legendary icon in the rock scene.
Yeah.
Who do you think, when it's all said and done, had a bigger impact?
I mean, I would say probably Dave Grohl. I mean, it helps that he's got almost double the amount of time on Earth to be able to do things. The fact that he was a part of peak Nirvana and was able to continue do the Foo Fighters, and became like the drummer, and an extremely likable person as well.
Oh yeah, he's
makes movies and
great in pop culture.
yeah. I mean, he's the rock and roll sweetheart. Like, despite who whichever genre, Dave Grohl, and like, oh sweet, he's on the drums. You get excited about it.
It's always interesting to see it's in it, and just shows how much lack of intelligence I have when it comes to music history. I think the only two groups that the drummer, well, I say only two groups. I think the Beatles. I think Ringo had a fair shake. But you really don't see drummers and bands ascending to the spotlight the way that Dave Grohl did post Nirvana, and then I would say Don Henley for the Eagles. It's just one of those things where the drummer kind of gets. I think it's Don Henley.
Yeah.
The drummer gets a little bit of fame. He's known as the drummer, but he's never the guy.
It's definitely a lot harder. I would argue like Phil Collins. I mean, granted, he was also the singer for Genesis, but like I think he's a lot bigger whenever he went solo.
That's true. And I forget that Don Henley's saying he's the main singer for Hotel California. I think the box I'm trying to corner myself in is strictly drummers who didn't sing.
Yes, and then
became singers.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot that do that, and I think the closest that's more recent that I can think of, like Tommy Lee from Motley Crue. I mean, he went off to do his own thing as well, and he had moderate success, but certainly nothing like Dave Grohl. Like, if anyone you can honestly say that that's the most successful drummer turned frontman. I would say that would be the case.
I didn't do any research into this album on purpose. I wanted to kind of mimic what we did last week.
Yeah.
So I want you to educate me. Educate me.
Sure. Well, as Parker said earlier, this was released in 1991, September 24th. Producer Butch Vig.
Butch.
Old Butch.
Big fan of the show.
And of course, the genre that was created here was grunge. This album, very unexpectedly, knocked out Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's Dangerous from the #1 spot.
Wasn't Michael's best, but
I really like it.
It had Chicago on it. It was a good one.
I was still listening to it, and again, the surprise of listening to Michael Jackson, that type of music, and then listening to something like Nirvana.
Not to interrupt again, even though I am interrupting again. Was it called grunge when this album came out, or did grunge kind of become the name of this genre as they were searching for it?
As I recall, I think somebody on MTV kind of described it, because it's real
gritty,
dirty. Like it's not super polished sounding, but it is. So yeah, they refer to it as grunge, and I don't know how long it took for that name to take on, but I mean, yeah, it didn't last super long, but it was enough for musical people to refer to it as that. But I mean, the grunge bands that were in there never referred to themselves as grunge. I mean, Dave Grohl is like, I don't understand what that word means or whatever,
And when you get into like the late 90s, when it comes to rock, it becomes more alternative rock, correct? Maybe not.
Yeah.
I just don't know any other like grunge bands like Nirvana. I know they're out there, but whenever I think of the word grunge, I think Nirvana. I don't think Soundgarden.
And see, I mean, it's very, very much that West Coast, very much the Seattle scene. So, it is your Alice in Chains, it is Soundgarden. I mean, those in particular bands were the bigger ones, and then from there, they're either known as alternative or they might be like post grunge or something like that.
All right, I will shut up.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, here we are trying to learn. All sorts of stuff. So obviously the biggest track and what really sparked everything was Smells Like Teen Spirit. And you might have some questions of what exactly that's all about.
Wasn't Teen Spirit like a deodorant?
Yeah, yeah, it is a deodorant. Where on so yeah, it is deodorant that was around at that time. It smells like Teen Spirit. The whole song itself is sort of this again the irony of writing a song about just like youth and rebellion, but it's more so just like how kind of the satire of apathy, rebellion, and just like mass youth, and more or less kind of mocking like a generation anthem, but the irony that it would become
Generational anthem, yeah.
a generational anthem, yeah. But
Such
a lot
an
of it,
iconic intro too. Like you hear the ding, 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 and you don't have to listen to the rest of it. You know exactly what it is.
yeah. I mean, the song Butch Vig was very, very much trying to make a a clear radio friendly like sound as much as possible. Dave Grohl, this is his first album with them after a plethora of drummers prior, got in and had this idea that he wanted to make sure that every song, if possible, he would write drum riffs. They would be hooks. So he too, I mean, you can listen to just the drum. Yeah, and that's very much, smells like Teen Spirit, and you hear it, and he's mentioned that he took it from bands like Cameo and the Gap Band and stuff like that of old disco, whatever, but like he brought that like vibe into this type of music. So yeah, I mean, what Cobain wrote in thinking that it was going to be a rebellious song or making fun of teen rebellion, it ended up.
Do you think
being
he
very
ever
much that.
thought it would become part of a medley in Moulin Rouge? You think when he was writing this next to a Starbucks, because there's like 80 of them in Seattle, that he was like, someday Nicole Kidman and John Leguizamo, whatever his name is.
Leguizamo.
Like, I don't care. Would be see. Anyway.
No, he absolutely hated the fame. He hated being mainstream. His biggest concern was that that they were gonna be portrayed as sellouts because they made it big, and they were very much like overnight success. And the fact that like they did not want to be that big. I'm sure they wanted the popularity and the money and everything like that, but they were the types of celebrities that liked the status of being able to have whatever they wanted, but not the paparazzi, the constant,
Cobain carried a lot of that with him.
Absolutely, and I'm sure I know it contributed, to eventually his demise and everything.
Yeah.
But he had a rough beginnings as well, and dabbled a lot in drugs, and a lot of that was just a bad mixture of everything. And unfortunately, that's his story. But that being said, I mean, he was also very self-conscious about his music, despite writing, I think upwards to like 200, 500 songs, something like that. He was always worried that he was like ripping off like the Pixies or someone like that, and very much that Smells Like Teen Spirit has a Pixies-esque vibe. But he was just more so like, hey, I'm just writing music, just doing my thing.
Right.
So yeah, basically he wanted the band to have Black Sabbath heaviness, but a Beatles style like melody. So if you combine the two, that is what at least Cobain opinion of what Nirvana is or was. We talked about the album, the Naked Baby there that does have an extra little part that was censored here, right here. And yeah, the band would go on to sell 30 million copies worldwide, was certified diamond, regularly appears on greatest albums of all time. And Yeah, I mean that's
one of
brief
those-
history there.
It's one of those albums that like even if you don't like it, it's in your like it has to be considered one of the best. Like I'll put it this way. I think this album's a good album. I don't love it. I like some of the songs on it, but as an overall body of work, I don't love it. But if you ask me to rank like the top rock albums of the 90s, it's automatically a top 3. There's no ifs, ands, or buts just because of the influence it's had on the culture in the 90s and the influence it's had on the culture since. I mean, like I said, you can't go to a head shop at Springfield without there being a poster of this, and it's 2026.
Right.
You know, it's been, gosh, what, 35 years?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
I'm
absurd.
not even 30, and this thing has outlived me, and it probably will outlive me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
No.
mean that just shows how big this thing was and how it really changed the landscape, especially for rock music and building the beginnings of what the '90s music scene was. Because eventually we would get more things like gangster rap and then eventually more of the poppies, Mickey Mouse Club stuff later. But
yeah.
like
The one thing I wanted to add is not only was Smells Like Teen Spirit, the calling card, the Mount Rushmore of the peak of Nirvana. The music video is almost just as iconic too.
oh yeah,
Because I see it in my head right now. It's that smoky gym. You've got the people in the stands cheering. You've got everyone losing their mind. No one in the band looks up while they play. I feel like that's just a requirement of grunge. You have to constantly look down and let your hair drape down. God, I bet dads in the 90s were always like, cut your hair. Why is your hair so long?
I'm sure that was very much the case. Yeah, I mean it was so big that the clothes that they were wearing, flannel, became a very, very big thing. And I mean, I was a victim of it as well.
You should have found some photos of you in the 90s.
I should have. I didn't think of it until just this very moment.
Yeah.
But looking at the look, we all had these parted hair right in the middle.
It's not just a phase.
Yeah, we all wore flannel. It was a thing. Yeah, I mean he was a rock star and he portrayed as so, and didn't want to be. Just wanted to just rock, but not be the rock star. But he ended
When
up
did he
being
pass?
That was 1994. So just
It was after the Unplugged performance?
yes, of course.
No, I haven't seen the Unplugged performance.
Oh, you really should.
I really haven't.
Okay.
And that's the thing is that I've never seen it, but because of how much of an impact it had on the 90s and going on, I know exactly what year it was. But I've never seen it.
Fair.
And obviously that's probably the best Unplugged performances of all time, right?
Yes. Not only did they do an acoustic set of their own music, they would do a bunch of covers and things like that. And you would hear acoustic versions of covers, but played by Nirvana. And those covers would go on to get radio play. And like they were a perfect band that knew how to just their performances were just so good, so entertaining, so just the energy of it all. And the Unplugged concerts that you can watch.
Yeah, I need to see it.
It's really fantastic, and you really get to see like if you as a guy who not a huge rocker, I think you'd just appreciate like the the musicality that these guys have. And their arrangements for some of the songs too, just really, really solid.
Well, and I need to expand my palette more. I mean, I know Smells Like Teen Spirit, I know Come As You Are, but like I think most of my experience with Nirvana came from Rock Band because they had, or Guitar Hero because they had Heart Shaped Box, and so I constantly played that as a kid, and it's. I got two opinions real quick.
Okay.
One, I really wish he hadn't had died at such a young age. On the other side of that coin, we talk about this all the time. At what point do you peak? And I feel like it is a tragedy that he passed away, but I can't think of somebody who left this earth on a higher note in terms of their legacy.
Yeah.
But also, my other opinion is I don't think this band is successful in any decade other than the 90s. I don't think Nirvana could come out today. They certainly couldn't make this album today. I don't want to be like the old man on the soapbox and everything was better when I was younger. But I think the 90s were the perfect decade for grunge. I think the 2000s were the perfect decade for this pop. And I think that if you oversaturate the market, that sound becomes less valuable. And I think they struck gold at a perfect time. Because if they came out in 2005, you would have, they'd be competing with Fall Out Boy and Linkin Park. And those sounds are so different.
It is, but it's so hard to say because they were so influential that would those bands even exist without them first?
That's Butterfly Effect, yeah.
I mean, we could still have 80s, hair metal all the way through the 90s, and then if they were to come out in the 2000s, that's how big of a change it was. It was a complete just all bands like Europe, the Final Countdown, they lost their deals with record labels immediately because everyone wanted a piece of the Seattle scene. That's just how big it was.
Billy Squier had that Rock Me Tonight. Billy Squier was very famous for, The Stroke, Everybody Wants You. Then he came out with Rock Me Tonight, and it's a rock song. But if you've ever seen the music video for it, he's I don't want to call it a leotard. He's in skin tight clothing, but he's dancing around his apartment with a scarf, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And it kind of and I think it has something to do with the glam rock era where he was trying to tap into that, but also not. And it kind of ruined his career. He never really had anything after that.
A lot of it, yeah.
Now, Billy, if you're listening to this and you want to defend yourself, you can come on the pod.
I do think that, if other bands had come out and sort of started a scene, a new style, and then they were to come out later, maybe they wouldn't, because a lot of the bands that are still around and whatnot, they're still putting out new music and what have you, and they're not, the top people as well. So
I get so fascinated with the idea that these things all happen in a vacuum, in a moment in time, and all of the variables have to be right in order to get this sound. You have to have him dealing with the 90s. You have to have the melodic, angle. You have to have the group giving their input. You have to have all of these things that not to get philosophical, but if you have a different producer, Smells Like Teen Spirit does not sound like the way we think it is.
Right. I think ultimately what it comes down to is what speaks to the young generation. So, high schoolers now, I guess would be Gen Alpha, right?
I don't know. They keep saying 6'7", and it's annoying.
Okay, so this is the world of 6'7". Who speaks to them? Would Kurt Cobain and his in particular music speak to them? I don't think
it would.
Yeah.
I think they would be like, why is this man so angry? He should probably get better help. Which brings us to our sponsor. No.
But at the same time, music at this point as well is so different than what he was doing that it might be different enough for them to latch onto it. See what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. It's almost
there's always
like
a reemergence of old music that comes back.
It's almost like a musical peacocking.
Yeah, I could see that. Oh, just someone just I mean that the music grunge and that whole vibe was always underground. It was always like, this is,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm more referring to if it came out today, it would be such a niche, obscure sound that I think people would drift to it because it's so random.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what? I've convinced myself they could come out today.
I don't think they'd be as big.
No.
And honestly, I think you're right in terms of the definitely peak there. If he continued, we would get more albums, and I'd assume that Kurt will try to get out of being, Nirvana. And Dave Grohl was already writing music for the Foo Fighters, or what would be the Foo Fighters. He even showed Kurt Cobain some of his music, and really enjoyed it and whatnot. So like we would still get the Foo Fighters as well.
Yeah.
It might look different, but like,
Real quick,
we would
do you
have
have
that.
any history as to why the band is named Nirvana?
Prior to choosing that name, they didn't really care, or they just couldn't figure out what name to throw out there. So whenever they would do shows, I think they would hear like the first word that they would hear of the day would be their band name for the day, and they would keep doing that, And then eventually, Kurt wanted something, again, being the opposite of what you would expect. So if you're a big hard rocking band, there's bands that call themselves Metallica, the Killers, like real.
Those are two drastically different bands.
Yes, however, that's the irony.
Megadeth,
Like,
Five Finger Death Punch.
yeah, like just
Yeah.
real, like, we're trying to be badass and our names are
Yeah.
cool or whatever because it's death and this and that. And he was like, let's be ironic and be Nirvana.
Yeah, because Nirvana is what, like a state of happiness or calm.
Yeah. Again, he really, really loves contradictions
What a
and
wordsmith.
ironies. You pay attention to the words, you will be extremely confused because he's very vague. But once you kind of like think about and maybe look up what exactly these songs are about and whatnot, you're like, okay, this guy's a genius.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the songs, obviously we talk about a top three and one that we don't like. I think. Honestly, I think the top three songs are the first three songs. I would have Smells Like Teen Spirit at 1, Come As You Are at 2, and then In Bloom or Drain You tied for third. I know Something in the Way is sitting there at 12 on the track list, and thanks to Matt Reeves, I can't listen to that song. For people who don't understand that reference, there's a movie that came out, 3 years ago now? We're still waiting on the sequel.
Yeah.
It's called The Batman. It stars Robert Pattinson. It's the I don't even want to get into what version of the DC Comics universe this is, but the point is that the overall, I want to say motif, but the overall like melodic theme of the score is Something in the Way.
Mm-hmm.
And you constantly hear that doom, 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 throughout the entire film. And so every time, like, I listened to it on the way into work yesterday and today, and I kept thinking somebody was going to be in the back of my car, like, it was weird for me. And it's just one of those things where I feel like if I had listened to this song before seeing the movie, I would have enjoyed the song more. But because I had seen the movie first, it's immediately the first thing I think of.
Yeah. Well, as someone who listened to the music first and then watching the movie,
You love it.
I mean, I love it regardless.
Yeah.
But now it's more towards Batman than it is.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
That being said, like prior to that, they did a documentary about Kurt Cobain, and that was the main theme for the whole documentary.
In hindsight, is that a song about like mental health?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about like what could be in the way, and it's like depression.
Yeah. Very much so about depression.
Well, now that's
anxiety.
sad.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of life he
Kind
had.
of just ruined it for me.
Isolation, depression, emotional paralysis. Those are sort of the big themes of that in particular song.
Which ones did you like?
I like Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Of course.
Honestly, I love this entire album. There's some songs that I've never find myself skipping in the beginning. There's songs where like I just want to hear the first chorus or something like that and then move on. And I do lean towards that more towards the end. So I concur that I think the stronger songs are on the beginning. However, yeah, I would say Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Lithium. I mean,
I'll tell you what, I skipped Polly after the first time I listened to it. I think that's the acoustic one, right? You just keep saying like Polly want a cracker or something.
Yeah.
Not a fan. I mean, I understand that he is a great songwriter. Swing and a miss for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
But the one that I absolutely hated was the last track because I was listening.
Which last track are we talking
It's
about?
called Endless Nameless.
Okay.
And crazy, it has a name. But I was listening to it and I was like, when's he gonna sing? I think here, hold on, I've got it. I need to do a little research real quick. 6 minutes and 42 seconds of nothing, just nothing, just dudes banging on stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't like it. I thought it was very screechy.
Okay.
It was not good for my ears.
You didn't like the musicality of it?
I didn't. It sounded like somebody. It sounded like someone left the door open to the recording booth, and like a raccoon got in there. It was just running all over the keys and the chords and the drums, and it was not good, Mr. Cobain. I would like to file a formal complaint.
Okay.
That song, like, and look, I use Apple Music. This is not an endorsement. It's just what I use.
Okay.
And I see they have other versions. They have a 30th anniversary with 75 songs.
Yeah.
Most are live versions and demos. I would rather listen to any of those. This song does not need to be on this album. That is.
Can I learn you something?
You can try.
Okay. All right. So this song is actually a hidden track. So that's why I asked which final song are you talking about, because it's minutes after Something in the Way, which is obviously a very, very, very slow song.
Yeah. So you're saying if I bought this album in 1991, it would say 12 tracks.
It would say 12 tracks. And here's the thing is that, and it happened to me, that you're listening to the album, you get to the end, Something in the Way, very, very slow, might even put you to sleep because it's kind of soothing, you know, very, very dark. And then suddenly, boom, this happens, right? That happened to me, and you freak out, and you're like, "What is going on? What is this?" The radio, the boombox just went crazy. No, it's a hidden track. This is actually
not that hidden.
This is actually right after they were trying to do the song Lithium. Kurt was extremely angry that they could not get it because they kept speeding up. And so out of frustration, after the after that take, he just started just hitting his guitar and then smashing his guitar. And by the time you hit around 6 minutes, just before 6 minutes, he's completely destroyed this guitar. Now, Butch Vig is just like, I have to keep rolling because I don't know what's going to happen. The other bandmates are just like, and they just jump in and try to make a song out of it. So they're just jamming along, and Kurt is just destroying this guitar.
You are not going to convince me that this is some sort of like art piece.
This is a snapshot of what it's like in a rock band when you just purely play on emotion. You're just going in, you had a frustrating day, whatever. You just go in and you just start playing. You don't say a word, you just go. And then the rest of the band is just like, all right, we're going. Let's just see where it goes. And somebody happened to be recording. And so,
this
you
song
hear
sucks.
I'm not saying
I understand what you're saying. And last year I would have been like, you know what? You're right. I'll back off. It's clearly a snapshot of the struggles of being in a rock band. No, I'm doubling down. Didn't need to include it. They could have had a fun little it could have been a hidden track for like a deluxe version, down the road.
Here's the thing.
No.
The gap between track 12 and 13 is huge. So a lot of people don't even know or even realize that there's another, an actual ending to Nevermind. So you saying that didn't need it, like a lot of people didn't even know about it. So I'm not saying that you're wrong by any means, and I
You could say I'm
concur.
wrong. That's the whole point of this show.
No, the whole point of the show is just talk about music and albums.
Yeah.
It is a song that like I'll listen to once, and I had not listened to that since until
Yeah.
this week, and I was like, oh yeah, I
Right.
forgot about this. And it brought me back to when I was a teenager listening to it and being scared out of my mind
Yeah.
in the darkness.
It's
that,
your
that it happened.
Ziggy's commercial.
It is my Ziggy's commercial. Yes.
We'll talk about that next week.
Um,
But yeah, final thoughts.
Honestly, I would say that you should listen to Unplugged.
Okay.
Okay, but you as
Homework.
the viewers, if you haven't listened to this album, like you kind of have
Go
to.
into it with an open mind.
And honestly, I don't even think it's that much of a struggle. I think it's such a pop record and melodies that as you go by, there's something, there's a verse, there's a chorus,
There's something in the way.
there's something that you'll always be able to latch onto and be like, all right, this is okay. You'll feel like this is either great or this is okay, and that's how I feel about the whole album. Is that you'll find something out of this album. I guarantee you that. Your thoughts?
I think you pretty much I'm going to echo your comments. Everybody should listen to it, even if it's not your thing. At least try it, so you at least sound culturally competent when you're discussing it with other people. I wish he was still around, and but also I this sounds bad, but I want to say it with good intentions. I absolutely think it's a tragedy that he's not on this earth with us. But I think when he spiritually, heaven, whatever you believe, I think when he looks back on his legacy, I think he's perfectly fine where it's at. He didn't play music to the point where he became a sellout. He didn't play music to the point where he was starting to lose his fastball. I think almost all the band probably feels like, that was a good effort. Everyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? But next week, I'm stuck between two albums. One is prominently more famous than the other, and one is yacht rock, and the other one is pop rock with a lot of marimba. So I'm not sure which way we'll go.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right. All right. Well, I guess that was our episode there.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess. We'll figure out what album we'll be reacting and reviewing next time. So,
All right.
Until next week, this has been the Vinyl Vault. We'll see you next time.